Is USC recruiting about to make some moves in football? And how much resistance can the Arizona Wildcats offer on defense against USC's offense this Saturday? I don't think a lot. That's what's coming up next on Locked On USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I am your host, Mark Culkin, and thanks again for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are always free. And if you have already subscribed on YouTube, thank you very much. If you haven't, see that red subscribe button? Do me a favor, hit it. It means a lot. And as always, you can follow me at Twitter at Mark, M-A-R-C, Culkin, K-U-L-K-I-N. So most people would agree that USC, if they have any present pressing needs, it might be on defense and recruiting. I think people anticipate recruiting emphasizing the defensive side of the ball for 2023. So their class has already got a really nice start going. One of the positions is that rush end, defensive end, linebacker type of hybrid role that Alex Grinch and Lincoln Riley like to employ. Well, Braylon Shelby out of Texas is already on board. You know, the 6'4", 240, 245. He's already in the fold as a commit. Well, there's some smoke signals coming out of Lincoln High School out of San Diego. And those smoke signals are spelling out that David Peevy might be a Trojan as well. He's getting ready to make his announcement on Thursday, the 27th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. He's another guy similar to Braylon Shelby, 6'4", 235 pounds, big, well put together young man. And when I say young man, I truly mean I want to emphasize the word young, like Braylon, still 17. And when they arrive at college, when they are in the fall of 2023, will still be 17 and just turning 18. They'll be on the younger side of the class chronologically. But you can already tell by their size that these young men will eventually build themselves into very well put together young men who will look like men and not look like kids. So David Peevy, he's anticipating choosing between USC, Oregon, and Washington. Again, strong rumor, strong feeling that USC is in a very good position for Peevy's announcement Thursday afternoon. And if he does choose USC, that's just another dagger into the, I guess we'll call the Pac-10 conference, because USC and UCLA will be leaving. And remember that the Pac-10, we're gonna be talking a little bit about Pac-12 Media Day in basketball a little bit later in the show. And that comment came up, as well as George Kliavkoff, commissioner, making some weird comments. We'll get to that here shortly. We're going to stick with football recruiting because we know everybody loves recruiting, and especially when it comes to USC football. So again, if USC can secure the commitment from David Peevy, that would hurt Oregon as well as Washington if those are the other two finalists, as USC prepares to build their roster for the Big Ten Conference in 2024. And so I brought up these guys' sizes for a reason. So while Alex Grinch and Lincoln Riley, they want to recruit guys that fit their scheme, which is an aggressive, fast, quick attacking style with not big guys. The goal is still to get USC's roster bigger, because you will need to be going against, when you move to the Big Ten, those rosters are built for with I just call them, Midwestern guys, in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. They tend to be bigger across the board, but USC is building a roster back in a similar fashion on both sides of the ball. For instance, in the class of 2022, Devin Tompkins, he's another big defensive end, rush end type of body. He's redshirting this year at USC, but again, very similar to Braylon Shelby, and hopefully David Peevy will be a Trojan. All three very similar in size. So for what it's worth, I guess we should just to kind of tell you why I feel confident and why we're talking about David Peevy on this episode. WeAreSC.com's Scott Schrader, he went down to San Diego on Tuesday to talk with David, as well as Lincoln High's coach. I think it's Jason Carter. I apologize. Coach Carter, that I know. He's been there for 5 years, and in his time, he's sent over 40 guys to play Division I college football. On this team alone, they're sending 15 guys to play. 15 seniors will graduate to go on and receive scholarships to play football. So Lincoln High School in San Diego is definitely not a program that Lincoln Riley and his staff want to ignore going forward. So they were able to get in there a little bit later into the process. They started later at USC, and they were able to build up the relationship strong enough where David feels confident to put USC in his, I guess we'll call it the final three between them, Washington and Oregon. So if you want to follow the clue trail, if Scott made the trip down to San Diego on Tuesday, that's usually a good sign. Typically, sometimes you get a curveball every now and then. That's happened in the past. But when that happened in the past, it's because USC wasn't in a good position and recruits were still second guessing the direction of USC. There's very little second guessing going on right now. So wink, wink, hint, hint. USC feels good come Thursday. But we won't know until David makes his announcement. Again, 5:30 p.m. You can check that out. Look, if 2022 has taught Trojan fans anything there about this current defensive scheme, is that it needs help at the rush end position. So again, recruits are watching what's going on. They see that certain players aren't performing up to the expectation. There's going to be a lot of attrition after this year via graduation, maybe transfers. So there's going to be playing time available if it's earned. And again, the players that are on the roster right now, USC's current roster, some of them were recruited by Lincoln Riley. Some of them weren't. So typically, rule of thumb is coaches like to play the players that they recruit, that they want to build a team in their image. So something to kind of, keep an eye on going forward. Also, again, there's going to be I mentioned there's going to be some attrition. So I think you're going to see these high school guys want to secure their spots in the class before the next transfer portal opens. Like, how's that going to work? There's going to be 2 different times throughout the year where the transfer portal will be available for players to jump in and make movement. That will be coming up soon. So high school recruits, secure your spot, because USC will be active in the transfer portal after the season. That's for sure. Also, is there a competition already starting for the quarterback spot? We're going to jump way ahead to the 2024 recruiting class. According to a source, first one in gets their spot. This isn't, in other words, is this another DJ Unga Alele versus Bryce Young type of situation, where USC has DJ Lagway from Willis, Texas, and there's also Elijah Brown, quarterback at Mater Dei. Elijah Brown hasn't lost as a starter. Just something to think about. He's the local kid. However, DJ was Lincoln Riley's first offer. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, first one in they might be the quarterback for that class. Something to keep an eye on. Let's see here. What else do we have? Oh, one last little note here on recruiting. The plan for Thursday night is I'm going to try and go see Pinnacle High School versus Highland out in Arizona. That way I can check out Deuce Robinson, Elijah Page, as well as Caleb Lomu. Elijah Page is already in the fold, offensive tackle. Everyone is just kind of waiting for Deuce Robinson to pull the trigger. And Caleb Lomu is the big target still on the board that USC's after in that O-line class. So myself, I'm going to hopefully be hanging out with recruiting guru Scott Schrader from wearesc.com. You want to get all the insight. He's answering questions. We got that $10 subscription special, good for the year, all the way through August of 2023. Take advantage of it. I encourage it. All right, so SweatBlock. I want to talk to you about this. I hate sweating when I'm not exercising, which I don't exercise a whole lot, but every now and then I get that urge, and definitely when I'm not anticipating being hot. It's seriously aggravating to me. I become irritable, and I don't like the feeling of sweat on my body unless I'm in the mood for it. You know what I mean? So the SweatBlock wipes that are featured on the Rachel Ray show by firefighters, this thing would probably be a godsend to me because when I'm in that sweaty mode, I can just pull one of those wipes out, wipe myself down, and cool myself off a little bit. And if I have any odor working, eliminate any sweaty odor. So if you know anyone who is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try SweatBlock. You can save 20% with your promo code locked on at sweatblock.com, and it's also available on Amazon. So check it out, sweatblock.com. Thanks again. I like to be effusive with my thank yous. It means a lot that everyone's making Locked on USC their first listen every day, especially today as we're talking recruiting. But for your second listen, check out Locked on Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked on Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Okay, so what do you think Arizona does well on defense that could help put their team in a position to win, just in case USC's defense doesn't travel to Tucson this Saturday? I went and looked up some of the statistics. Arizona does nothing well on defense. I mentioned this on an earlier episode this week. The only reason they are not in last place defensively, statistically, is because Colorado is still in the conference. And if you've watched Colorado play this year at all, you know they're bad. Arizona is just a tick above Colorado bad. So they are still really bad. Let me go over some numbers here for you. It ain't good. The Wildcats on defense, they give up an average of 455 yards per game. 207 of that number comes on the ground via the rush. We know USC likes to run the ball, and they can run the ball. For the season, Arizona as a team. So if they're trying to get after the passer, they're trying to get after Caleb, as a team for the season, the Wildcats have 9 sacks. That's not good news for their defense. With or without Jordan Addison running routes, or even a 100% healthy offensive line for USC, which they're not. I keep emphasizing that. I want to make sure everyone takes that into consideration when they're grading and judging how they're performing. And I'm actually hearing rumors that there might be a shakeup on the O-line starting this Saturday. Still trying to confirm. Keep your eye on that. Oh, here's something else. So again, they only have 9 sacks. Tuli Tuiopolotu has 7 by himself. Yeah, Arizona's played 7 games this year. They've got 9 as a team. They've only created 7 turnovers all year. 5 fumbles, 2 interceptions. To put that into context, there's a reason why USC leads the nation in plus minus at plus 15. USC has turned the ball over 1 time all year. That's me knocking on wood that they don't start a different trend this Saturday. So if Arizona can't create turnovers, they're surrendering as a defense. They already give up 36 points per game. If they're not getting the ball back, creating extra possessions for themselves, giving themselves some short fields for their offense, which can score, it's going to be a long game for the Arizona Wildcats on defense. I fully anticipate USC putting up half a C note for this game. And they better have 40 by halftime. I got to tell you, this team has to come out angry. Hopefully it's a contained angry, they don't get any penalties and, play outside of themselves. But yeah, they need to play angry. They need to show everyone across the country, because next week, the first college football playoff poll will come out, and margin of victory will play a part of this. So when you are supposed to beat in Arizona, you're supposed to beat them by that 15.5 points that I believe USC is currently what that spread is. So you have to win impressive, because the guys who are considering the playoff teams, they're looking for the little things to put you above somebody else. And if you're a 1-loss USC team and you got to go up against maybe an undefeated Clemson team or a 1-loss Alabama team that doesn't look real good this year, you got to have some stuff on your resume that the voters can look to and say, all right, pro USC, con over here, pro USC, con. That's how it's done. That's what it's going to come down to. So again, this is why this game needs to be over by halftime, or shortly thereafter. After the third quarter starts, at the earliest. I want to see the backups playing. Miller Moss on offense, on defense especially for the backups too. I said I want to see USC come out and play angry. I want you to keep an eye on former Trojan Hunter Echols, played linebacker, defensive end for USC while he was there. He's now an Arizona Wildcat. And I think he's going to be looking to make a name for himself, make some plays against his old practice buddies. Let's just say that the parting of the ways between Hunter and USC was expected after last year. Keep an eye on Hunter and USC's offensive line. Could be fun. That's all I'm going to say. I just don't know. Again, I just wrap it up here. I just don't know if Arizona's defense can get the job done against a team that can score as easily as USC has shown they can this season. Now, Arizona has shown that they are capable of scoring. So again, if USC's defense doesn't travel, they turn the ball over. The Wildcats are playing at home. Jaden DeLaura can be dangerous. He's got a live arm. He's also, he can move around outside the pocket, play off the schedule, as the coaches like to talk about, make plays off schedule, which is a translation, improvise. So Again, this should be one of those the first of 3 tune-up games. Get this one on the road out of the way, and then USC can finish in California against the Bears at homecoming, Colorado the week after, and then you got your 2 rivalry games after that to close out the season. I just don't think Arizona is going to be able to cover that 15.5-point spread. And if you want to get some other point spreads, you should probably head on over to BetOnline because BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting, football, and the start of the new basketball season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and an in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. NCAA basketball starts in the next week and a half. Check that out. So head on over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online where the game starts. All right. By the way, just a reminder that we're going to switch gears from football to round ball, talk a little bit of hoops. It was Pac-12 Media Day on Wednesday. So again, quick reminder, USC basketball fans, you're out there. I know you are. They open their season on November 7th against Florida Gulf Coast. Andy Enfield's old Dunk City team they're heading over to the West Coast, coming to Galen Center. Check them out. That game will be 6:30 p.m. November 7th. Be there. Fill up Galen. The team will appreciate it. And you know what? Your team captains are going to appreciate it. Should fill you in on that. As expected, I think everyone thought Drew Peterson would be a team captain, Boogie Ellis. However, your third team captain for the season is sophomore Kobe Johnson. Like I mentioned, I don't think it's any surprise about the first 2 guys. Maybe a surprise for Kobe, but not if you've ever watched. And I know you don't get out to practice, and some of you come to the games. Kobe didn't play a lot last year, but if you watch how he interacts with his team on the bench, he's even more into it during practice. I've had the ability and the honor to be able to attend USC basketball practices, and the way he interacts with his teammates, he's not just a vocal leader. He's one of those lead by example guys too. He is 100% on go all the time. I mean, when his switch flips from off to on, if you've ever seen the movie Spinal Tap, his knob goes to 11. It doesn't stop at 10. It goes up to 11. That's Kobe Johnson. Again, he might not be, Kobe. There's only one Kobe. But he has a similar personality to the late, great Mamba Kobe Bryant. During Pac-12 Media Day, which again was on Wednesday, if you're watching Locked On USC Thursday, because you are, it's your first listen and watch every day, USC was picked to finish 4th in the Pac-12 behind UCLA, Oregon, and Arizona. And just to kind of show you how Andy Enfield and the staff have this program trending up. This is the first time the USC Hoops team has been picked in the top 4 in consecutive seasons, going back to, 2001, 2002. So again, the program is making big strides with Andy Enfield on staff as the head coach. And I think USC fans should appreciate that and get out there and support the team. They might not have that big, superstar in the middle like an Evan Mobley or an Isaiah Mobley or Okongwu, or before him, Chimezi Metu. This is going to be more of a small ball team, but it's going to be a fun, exciting team to watch. Trust me on this. Get out there. As I mentioned, Pac-12 Media Day on Wednesday. Pac-10 Commissioner George Kliavkoff said he's spoken to more than 100 people connected to both programs in reference to USC and UCLA, including players and coaches, and the consensus has been against the move to the Big Ten. Quote, I think saying hundreds would be an exaggeration, dozens more than 100, he said, and I have yet to talk to anyone in the UCLA and USC community who's in favor of the move. I will say that I probably hear from folks who are not in favor, not surprisingly, end quote. Okay, look, I'm not calling George a liar, but Curious George, you might understand that reference, where he's having these conversations, because this is the first I'm hearing of this. I got to be honest with you. And I talk to players and coaches too. George, including basketball, I haven't heard any of this. Not once has this even been whispered in my ear off the record, any type of innuendo. Maybe he's hearing it from the women's water polo players and coaches. I don't know. It's definitely coming from a Olympic sport, non-revenue sport, if he's hearing that. So he went on to say, we believe that between the travel and coaches' salaries and some of the other expenses that you incur when you join the Big Ten, that the small delta in the Big Ten media rights deal will be more than offset, and we stand by those numbers. Okay. First of all, the fact that he used the small delta index chart to try and make himself sound like he did some deep dive research is comical, and it's insulting. USC is going to be making money hand over fist. The athletic department is going to be making money hand over fist between football and basketball. And the TV rights deal is just the beginning. When you get into the merchandising and all the other stuff, the NIL, USC is going to be just fine. And UCLA basketball will pull their football team across the finish line too. So, look, George has to put on that face for Pac-10 Media Day. And I keep saying that because at least Oregon basketball head coach Dana Altman, he was honest when he said that, quote, he was disappointed by USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12, noting that the Los Angeles market has been important for recruiting and the league's overall prominence. Quote, there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's not good for our league, but we'll survive. We've got 10 good teams. It's our challenge to improve. So we agree. The Pac-10 will survive. The question, though, really is, for how long? It's up to you, George. All right, that's our episode for Locked On USC. I want to thank you again for making it your first listen every day. Don't forget about Locked On Sports today. You can check that out. And as always, when you're done watching and listening to me, you got to head on over to wearesc.com for all the VIP written content that we do. Eric McKinney has been pulling me along, covering practice this week. He's got some good stuff up there. Scott Schrader, I talked about him and his recruiting info. Chris Arledge has his own Musings podcast. Go check it out. Good stuff. We got you covered across the board at wearesc.com, but you're always going to check out Locked On USC first because that's what you do. So until then,